Pearl, how do you like your script? How I like my cake? Rich and layered, thank you. This movie is written by a woman, so I'm not going to make bold on that statement, but y'all stop it. Just please stop telling these love stories. They are bad. Y'all know that was not a love story. Good day. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, welcome. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you. Actually, thank you to everyone, every single one of you who's here. Today we're reviewing Cake. This is a 2022 romance comedy, but it just got put on Prime Videos. So it's currently streaming on Prime Videos and we're going to talk about it. Cake is written by Ronke, Gbede and directed by Prosper Esiri, Arhawho. I hope I'm saying the names right. For its synopsis, at least on Prime Videos, it says, Cake is the story of a talented baker trying to win the heart of a woman he loves by using his culinary gift. Soon he finds out that relationships are just like cakes, layered and complex. And an extra tack on to this synopsis on IMDb is, join them on a delightful journey through sweetness, laughter, and the complexities of romance. And so after reading this synopsis, I had a simple question, which was, did the writer of this synopsis watch this particular movie? Because here's a brief summary, and yes, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, this is a good time to just pause, go watch it, and then come back, unless of course you just want to be here to decide whether or not you want to see it in the first place. But my summary is not an adequate representation of this movie. So let's go. Cake follows Tomiwa, played by Tope Tedela, a baker who has just reopened his small baking business along with his staff of two, Mfon and Jimo. These two characters played by Folu Storms and Koloman respectively. Almost immediately, Tomiwa, Tope Tedela's character, falls in love with a customer, Asaya, played by Sophie Alakija. He's immediately determined to win her heart and embarks upon a journey of baking a cake named after her, or creating a cake named after her, perhaps as a way to win her affection. While all of this is going on, Mfon, Folu Storm's character, who is obviously in love with Tomiwa, tries different ways to get him to notice her, to no avail. Several months later, when Tomiwa finally is ready to declare his love and intentions to Asaya, she turns up engaged and commissions him to bake her wedding cake. Tomiwa, however, remains undeterred and sets out to prove that he's a better man for Asaya than her fiance. Things get out of control when Tomiwa, convinced that Asaya is being abused by her fiance, tries to poison him. He, however, unwittingly poisons his love interest Asaya and ends up in prison. The movie ends with Tomiwa finally realizing that he has feelings for Mfon. Remember Mfon, who's been there all along? And their love story begins as the movie ends. Now, just a reminder, you're here. Thank you again. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd like to hear your thoughts about my reviews and about the movie as a whole. And please remember to share this video and others with your community. Also, please don't forget to check out my other videos. I appreciate you. Here's a quick note. My baby sister is a baker, right? A baker extraordinary. Okay, so all the cake that I'm going to be displaying in is throughout this video is a showcase of her work. You could consider it a shameless plug. Okay, you know, her IG handle is on the screen, so please go support her. She's hugely talented and all of us, the family, were in so much awe of her. Now, when I saw this movie, I was very excited because I thought it would be a little slice of heaven. Everyone loves cake, right? So from the opening montage, even my excitement increased as I started watching the movie. So let's see how I felt on actually watching the movie. What worked? The lighting was really good. It was very bright lighting. I think it was in keeping with this kind of story. Normally for a romance, you would expect a bit more like muted lighting, whatever, but I thought this was fine. When we had like night scenes, that was also well done. I thought the coloring looked good too, or adequate enough. Some aspects of production design were okay. Emphasis on some. Costume was nice. The makeup was okay. The women's makeup was a bit caked on. But it was baked well into the skin, so it worked. The set looked good from the outside. I wish they had filmed a bit more in that outer room because it looked really good, and I wish that the cinematography had been better in the background to show it to better effect, more or less. The fireworks display at the very beginning of the movie was nice, and for a hot minute it deceived me what kind of movie this was. I thought it was a different movie, but that is as romantic as this movie got, that fireworks display. This was a great cast. Tope Tedela is a fantastic actor. Folu is also really good. So these are really good actors, right? Koloman, who was all right. Sophie Alakija, she did well. I'm not the biggest fan of her acting, but I thought that for this role she did really, really well. Asaya as Theo Maduka, that's Shalea's fiance. I really like that actor. So it was good to see him here. A few more things that worked. I liked that there was a story. Whether or not it was a good story is another matter entirely, but I liked that there was a story, there was a premise. One of my quote-unquote favorite things was the menu board in the background. It was used to timestamp, sort of that, more like date stamp or day stamp, like the passage of time, just to show that at least we're in a new day or in a different day, because they were wearing uniform and so their look is kind of the same every day. So something like that was necessary. So that's my list of things that worked. What did not work? Now, I already said that this was a good cast. However, these were not their best performances. Tope Tedela is usually cast in roles like this with subdued characters, and normally he's a really fantastic actor, like I've said, but this character, Tomiwa, did not give him very much to work with, and his acting and delivery here were really kind of out of whack for Tope Tedela, right? So the only time his acting here looked or seemed organic was whenever he was being mad about something at someone. Whenever he spoke with Shalea, it was obvious that he was trying to emote love struck, and then whenever he was speaking with Mfon, it was clear that he was trying to emote I'm not supposed to know that you're in love with me. So I didn't really feel the acting here. Another person who I had a problem with their acting was Folu Storms. Again, like I said, fantastic actor normally. Here, in every scene she shared with Tope's character Tomiwa, she was clearly acting, if you know what I mean. So it was like trying to fake disinterest, right? I mean, I'm madly in love with you, but I'm trying to act like I'm not in love with you, except that the acting looked like acting. And then that also kind of carried over into her other scenes. By the way, Folu and Tope are my friends. So, and Ronke, who's the writer of this, is also a colleague I've worked on a project with. So I'm just going to ask that you all continue to keep me in your prayers, because I'd like to still have friends left by the time all is said and done with my reviews. Now, the other guy, Koloman, who was playing the character of Jimo, I appreciate the attempt at levity for his character, you know, because this movie sorely needed some kind of humor. I mean, it does call itself a romantic comedy, you know, so of course, but I didn't particularly find him funny. I found him more exasperating than anything else, so I was definitely with Mfon with that. But I'm still going to say that even if I didn't find his humor funny, I still appreciated it, because without it, this movie would have been a really, like, just altogether really heavy script. Comedy aside, his acting was not bad, and his delivery was actually more natural than the other two, that's Mfon and Tomiwa. And that brings me to Sophie Alakija. Guys, is a cold day in hell or a poorly baked pie the day that Sophie Alakija is like the better actor on a set? And that seems to be like what that's what we had here, right? Her scenes were like the least offensive as far as acting, but then also not very much was required of her character. Also, she was the secondary lead in this movie, or was she? You know, I'm not very sure about that, because she definitely had like less screen time or whatever. But then, and I would have said that Mfon was the secondary lead here, but I knew next to nothing about her, and I knew a lot more about Shalea, you know, so I don't know, that was confusing for me. One thing that they kept doing in this movie was repeating names over and over, you know, just saying characters saying each other's names a lot. Tomiwa. But Tomiwa was even fine when it was said. Mfon was calling Jimo, something like that, and Jimo was calling him for Mofon, and I was like, why can you guys not say Nigerian names right? Like, that's just so crazy to me, especially if you're actually like, these are in story, this is the person that you're spending all day 6 days a week or so together with. You should at the very least be able to say their name. So that was a bit frustrating for me every time I heard Jimo or Mofon or whatever that was. That brings me to the directing. Like, all of the acting, all of the issues I have with the acting bring me to the directing. I was at first first wondering, is this a first-time director? And if he was, I'd probably have said maybe he's bitten off more than he can chew. You guys are not going to get rid of me with these food puns today, okay? So maybe he's bitten off more than he can chew. But I found out that this is probably his fourth or, I don't know, fifth production. So I'm going to say that he's probably found his sweet spot, which is cake it till you bake it. I don't know what to tell y'all. Okay, sorry, I'm being terrible, but I have to find something to be excited about, okay, because it wasn't this movie. The score of this movie was noisy as hell, and it was just not in tune with the genre. The soundtrack also was just not good. And in this scene, why this song? Why Hallelujah? I don't know what Hallelujah was doing there, but I don't know. You could say that maybe that was the movie trying to tell us that this guy is, because this was his imagination. So maybe he's that crazy, that mental, that even in his imagination, the wrong soundtrack is what we get. Or maybe it was just bad soundtrack, okay? I don't know. The story, like I said, there was a story, and I like that there was a story. But was it a good story? I'm going to go with no. The premise was simple if it was actually the premise that they said in the synopsis, right? You guys heard the synopsis. A love triangle. We like triangles. That's why pizza comes sliced in triangle shapes, okay? Everybody loves triangle. But I'm sorry, guys. Deal with me today. What was this plot, right? And then also, what was the genre in this movie? He claimed that it was a romantic comedy. If you saw the romance, point me there, because where? And the comedy, I don't know. Was it Jimo? I don't know. So I'm going to ask if the writer herself knew what genre this movie was, because if you ask me, she said romance. I'm going to go with psychological thriller, because guys, does this movie realize that their protagonist was insane? Like actually mentally unstable? Let's start there. Imagine the series You saying it's a romance because Joe Goldberg was in love with those women, even if he was killing people willy-nilly. So I don't know how this movie was positioned as a romance comedy. I can't even call this protagonist a psychopath, because one thing that psychopaths are known for is their charm. They're very charming. That's how they get to like do the things that they do and get away with it. But he had absolutely no charm with those terrible t-shirts and polos and just bad temper. He was completely humorless, bland, aggressive. He had hang-ups about his mom, because guys, what was that photo of his mom in the bakery glowering down at everyone? This protagonist was altogether crazy. But my problem is that the movie did not seem to realize that their protagonist was not well. Do they realize that he actually very nearly killed a person, as in an actual human being, and not by accident, premeditated? I don't know what I was watching. And then after a brief stint in prison, zero rehabilitation or therapy, what did this movie do? It brought in the romance belatedly by handing Mfon over to this sociopath, right? Because any man is better than no man. That final bit for me just took the cake, okay? Like, guys, I don't know. But do you know what his worst crime was? This guy, Tomiwa. The absolute icing on the cake for me as far as badness. Yes, actually even worse than the attempted murder. The worst crime for me was that this guy was a mediocre baker. The synopsis said talented baker. I was like, for where? Who told you? Who told you that? Let's take that apart. First of all, if he's going to be a sociopath, could he at least be great at what he does? The Menu, that's the movie, Ralph Fiennes, that movie worked because, crazy or not, you knew that he was the best at his job. He knew what he was doing, okay? That one, you couldn't fault him. This guy did not know anything about baking, nor did the artistic director on this set. And this next part is going to be a combo criticism of the writing and art direction package deal. Tomiwa had a mixer there, okay? So he was supposedly creaming, like he's baking a cake, so he's supposedly creaming butter and sugar, because why else did he go to the trouble of bringing the mixer and positioning it there? So why was he emptying vegetable oil into his batter? Why was he using low quality ingredients? Because yes, guys, in the world of baking, high end to mid-level baking, CMAS, because we had CMAS there, all just margarine is low quality, okay? And vegetable oil is just, it's a no, okay? That's for like low level, low effort, whatever baking. I never saw a stick of butter on that kitchen counter ever. Why essence instead of extract? Why those rubber bowls? Those are like the worst things for like creaming and mixing and everything. He just did not know anything about his craft. Let me reiterate here what I said at the start of this movie, that my baby sister is a baker. I said that, right? But do you know what I didn't say, what I left out? Who taught her? Me. So you're going to have to take my word that I know a little about what I'm talking about. Of course, she's far surpassed anything that I ever taught her. Where she is right now, I cannot take any credit for the marvel that she is right now and that she has grown to become, but I set her up there. I taught her to bake. So when I tell you that this guy knew not the first thing about baking, nor anyone on that set who was in any capacity able to like move the pieces around in that bakery, as far as the production, I know what I'm saying. Also, the world of this story, because the world was very small, it was contained to that space. What was this place? Was it a bakery or was it a restaurant? Was it a sweet shop? Because if it was all of the above, why call it cakey bakey though? Why limit it like that? And why call the movie as a whole cake? Cake. Do you like my maquette art? Okay, so there was not much at that bakery also that looked appetizing. Look, if you're going to name a movie cake and make confectionery the focal point of your narrative, I want to see creations. I want to see show-stopping showpieces. I want to see cakes that make me wonder how on earth they were devised. I want my mouth to water. I want to drool. I want to have foodgasms, okay? And above all, I want to see joy. This was one sad bakery. Like, everyone was perpetually upset. I mean, gosh, the poster art, right, of this movie, it actually had more chocolate ganache than anything I saw on screen. Food staging and photography should have been an absolute must in this production, but did they do it? No. And again, the baker was average, okay? So the first thing we see about him is him trying to create a recipe, but he's doing everything wrong. Whew. If he wanted to create a recipe for Shalia, he just needed to add and tweak ingredients, not try to reinvent the wheel. Okay? So, I don't know, was he trying to create a new type of cake? Because, you know, there's all kinds of cake. There's carrot cake, there's pound cake, there's angel food cake, there's sponge cake, there's cheesecake. So, if that was the case, though, like he's trying to create a new genre of cake, I would still have a problem with that because he seemed to be struggling with even the most basic cake. So, he's not even a good enough baker to be trying to break cake canon, you know, or whatever. So, I don't know what the point was, and even what was the point of all of that. The staff, when they were not fielding insane customers and the other two, Mfon and Jimo, were not jabbing and jabbering at each other, the chef himself was driving himself crazy, again trying to reinvent the wheels. I mentioned cheesecake before, so speaking of cheesecake, I don't know, that block of cheese that he was looking for everywhere, considering that he was trying this cake recipe, I don't want to believe that he was trying to bake a cheesecake with a block of cheese, because you use cream cheese to bake cheesecake. I'm having too much fun with this, honestly. So that would have made for a very cheesy cheesecake, okay? Did he ever tell his staff that they had a wedding cake to design? Because that never came up, and they never seemed to like ask him, even if when she was leaving she had thrown over her shoulder that she would talk to her mom or whatever about options. But they never, we never saw them like brainstorm about this cake ideas. You would think that if the movie is trying to bring these two together, they would use any opportunity to bring them together. And what more intimate than them trying different recipes? Can you picture it? Can you picture them tasting, like doing cake tasting together? He bakes like a platter of options, you know, in drinks. They would call that a flight. Love flights. But, you know, it would have been nice to see them doing, oh, I love this one, love that one. And then that's when you can do that zoom in that they did to her mouth in the beginning and see her tasting the cake and, you know, the ecstasy of that, and him just looking at her like he wants to fall into her mouth. But, you know, they didn't bring them together to talk about this wedding cake at all. They just kept doing contrived drama with him trying to stage a date that nobody else came to or whatever. Then the comedy part of this movie, the only comedy, because like I said, Jimo was not funny. So the only comedy in evidence was the menu for Niger goodies. I don't know if you guys saw that in the backdrop, because guys, what was that? I don't know if that was supposed to be fusion, but we had cheesecake with bole as an option. We had cupcakes with peanuts. We had pie with suya. Okay, have fun. Okay, finally, these characters, they were poorly drawn. There was no fleshing out at all. You know, the only person that we even seemed to know way more than everyone else about was Chalia, which is actually funny. not our protagonist. I'm just going to say that this movie let me down. I really wanted to like it. Like, I came into this movie with so much excitement, but it had absolutely nothing to say. The movie itself, it didn't know its genre, it didn't know its conflict, which was that its protagonist was mentally compromised. It didn't have any likable characters. There was no and it's funny because the movie I watched right after this is actually the Orisha, and the protagonist there as well is mentally ill, but at least that movie said the king is mad. This one was like, no, we're going to treat you like you're fine even if you literally tried to kill somebody. And so I think I just said that it didn't know its conflict, it didn't know that its protagonist was mentally ill, it didn't have any likable characters, and there was no romance at all. I don't know whether to say this movie hates women, because a lot of our movies are written like they hate women. This movie is written by a woman, so I'm not going to make bold on that statement, but I'm wondering, why do you think Mfon deserves that though? You know, like, she's going to be a helicopter partner to this guy, forever managing his aggressive behavior while giggling like a schoolgirl whenever she's around him and settling for the bare minimum, because y'all know that was not a love story. Like, y'all stop it. Just please stop telling these love stories. They are bad. We keep talking about moral lessons in our movies. Unless we're telling people do not steal, stealing is bad. But all of these things are actually moral lessons if you think about it. Because if a young girl is watching this, what are you telling her? Because this guy is not a romantic figure at all. You should warn your daughter of this guy, and yet we're putting a woman in his arms at the end of the movie. And this is supposed to be a love story. Just stop. By the way, that final scene, Mfon's wig was awful. I love the fact that I can talk about wigs now. Since I cut my hair, I've learned 19 years worth of wig knowledge. So I know a lot about wigs because I have a few that I don't wear. Also, in that final scene, when Tomiwa mentioned his mom, I just got so irrationally upset because his mom, again, did I not say he has some hang up? I don't know what's there about his mom, because in fact, the beginning of his lunacy was actually attributed to him telling his mom that he's going to make her proud or whatever the hell, you know. And then now again, he's using his mom to try to thaw the ice when he's like, I wanted to share this day with you. Today is 1 year my mom died. I don't know what was about him and his mom. There's something there, but he needs to go to therapy for it, okay? That's not just normal grief. When he said that he would bake her the perfect cake when he comes out of prison, it was supposed to be a nice thing, but I interpreted it as a threat. I felt threatened on her behalf. Oh, it was nice to see how well people were eating in prison. I mean, he literally baked a pound cake. That's the best baking he had done so far. So this script, I think he could have spent more time measuring out and weighing its condiments and ingredients, which are the elements of plot. Could have spent more time preparing the batter of story design, and definitely could have spent more time baking in the oven. Because Pearl, how do you like your script? How I like my cake? Rich and layered, thank you. This production could have been a decadent piece of cake, but however you slice it, it was average and ultimately hard to swallow. And I'm done with the cake puns, okay? I scored this movie a 4.5 out of 10. Do you like my marquee art? Did I ask you already? I'm so proud of it. All right, that's it for cake, guys. Thanks for tuning in. What do I tell you? You have the right to an incredible viewing experience, so never settle. Thank you. I don't know why I'm laughing so much. All right.